how's everyone doing on this Samurai Sunday? We're got another storm. It just doesn't stop now. Anyways, had a comment. Somebody telling me that it was a review of the Walking Dead sword that was a 1045. And it was just unruly, really too top heavy to control. So I got rid of it. They're saying you got ripped off 1045s, a soft steel, this and that, blah, blah, blah. It won't cut nothing. That is totally wrong. So, first off, I don't know everything about steel, even though I worked in it for over 22 years, because there's so much to know. But the one thing you don't do is don't challenge me on steel. So let's talk about what is 1045. All right, it's 0.45 carbon base metal. It is known as a ferrous metal. Why? Because it's hard. Non-ferrous, it would be copper, lead, bronze, aluminum. Those are all soft metals. This is a 1045. This is the one I'm practicing on polishing with stones. Okay? Now, let's go. So I got this, been researching stuff. Although this is what for 1045 for knives. Although there is not enough carbon to harden 1045 to knife requirements for edge retention and durability, it is generally used in the knife making for multiple layered Damascus to add shading and reduce carbon across the finished bar, because it forges welds to other steels more easily than 1018 mild steel. So yeah, there's all different kinds of grades of steel. Okay, but, and I don't blame anybody in the community. Everybody always says, this is a soft metal, this is a soft. That's not true. That's inaccurate. This is actually a low to almost medium grade metal. It borders the line. What would be medium grade? 1060, 1065, 1070. That's a medium grade metal. What's a high grade metal? High grade metal would be 1095, those ones in that range. S7, S5 is a tool steel, which is totally different. So we're not even going to get into that one. So, if you feel 1045 is a soft metal, stop driving your car right now. Because your car is riddled with it, actually. Let me give you a list of things that 1045 is actually used for. Okay? This is just a partial list, too. It goes on. Pins, gears, rams, shafts, spindles, worms, ratchets, light gears, bolts, crankshafts, guide rods, connecting rods, hydraulic clamps, and studs. Doesn't sound like a soft metal to me. Now, the heat treatment for 1045 is a lot different than to 1095, 1060, 1065. Okay, because it has a less carbon base. So, is it a soft metal? No. Will it hold an edge? Yes. Will it retain that edge? No. It's not very good for that. Not like 1060 will and 1065 will retain an edge a lot longer than a 1045 and up and so on and so forth. Can you differentially harden 1045? Yes, you can. Can you at 1060? It's not advised. That's why they'll differentially harden 1065. Okay? So, when people say it's a soft metal, it's actually inaccurate and wrong to say, because it's not a soft metal. Carbon-based metals are never soft. And what makes up a carbon-based metal is iron and carbon. That's why a lot of sword manufacturers say it's an iron tsuba, because it's based off of iron. It takes those two components at first to make metal, to make steel. Now, this is how we're taught when you start learning how to weld and do all these other things. What is the molecular structure of the steel? How does it react? And the simplest form, and they use this actually to show people, is a diagram like this. Okay? Because everything has molecules. We have molecules, your furniture has molecules, metals have molecules, and so on and so forth. Okay? This, especially with carbon-based steel, has a certain pattern to the molecules. Now you can change and alter those molecules with heat. So this is what it does. So you have the normal state. You'll see the pattern. So that's the normal state. Now when you heat it up, this is what they actually do. The molecules will scramble and start rearranging themselves and just going wild. It's like they're going, what the hell's going on? That's what's happening. When it cools down though, now you notice a difference from the top one. Molecule structure's changed once it cools down. Now, when you get into folding a blade and heat treating a blade, the molecules change again. You notice there's gaps. There's little gaps. Now, I just did this really fast. Now, when you start heat treating and you start folding it, the molecules get tighter. That's your carbon. Okay, the tighter you get it, that pattern, the stronger you're going to make it. It don't matter what grade of steel it is. That's what you're doing to it. Can you kill those molecules? Absolutely. Wrong heat treatment. So let's say you've got this heat treatment right here. You do it wrong. And I'll do something really random here. And this is why it'll break if the heat treatment is wrong. Okay. You see the ones I blacked out? Those molecules, you could say, have been destroyed. So that creates a void. Okay, that's a weak point. There's no structure left. All right. So when you do a heat treatment bad, that's what happens. Molecules have been destroyed. And that's why you get a fail. This goes for any carbon-based metal. The other thing all carbon-based metals have in common, besides being iron and carbon, is their melting point. Okay? Melting point for copper is 1900. It's like 1984 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay? It's a softer metal. This 1045, 1060, 1095, L6, T10, S7, S5, because they're all carbon-based, iron and carbon-based, melting point, 2000 degrees. It don't matter. It's 2000 degrees no matter what, because of the iron and carbon base. All that other stuff in there don't matter. 2000 degrees. This thing will start melting. Now that's why it kind of makes the cut for knives and everything, so that you can make an inexpensive one. Okay? That's why 1045 swords are so cheap. Okay? It's not because it's a cheap metal, because it's not. It's very, very easy to work. because of that. The higher the carbon content, the harder it is to work. Now 1095, since it does have a higher carbon content, is a lot harder, but it's not as hard to work with as some other steels. It takes a lot more to work it though, because every time you hit it, you're pressing more carbon into it. But that's why a lot of manufacturers will make a 1045. They can work it quicker and faster than they can a 1095. Even though 1095 is still pretty easy to work with, it's going to take longer, whereas this won't. The disadvantages of it is it doesn't retain its edge for long. You do a lot of cutting with this, the edge is going to do a lot quicker. Yeah, that's, like I was saying, that's pretty much, you know, how 1045 is used. A lot of different things in the heat treating. In fact, 1045 heat treat can go anywhere from 54 to, it's like ranges 54 to 56 heat treating, which is in the norm, you know, of heat treatment. Some say if it's differentially hardening, it could be 60. And the problem is that even though it has a good heat treating process, it just won't retain that edge, you know, because it's a lower quality carbon base. Like I said before, is it soft? No, it's just a low carbon base metal. That's all. Doesn't mean it's soft. Carbon based metals are never soft metals, ever. So that's pretty much like my take on 1045, and people always saying, it's a soft metal, it's a soft metal. It's not a soft fucking metal. Okay? Just like I was saying, the melting point for this is the same melting point for all carbon-based metals. 2000 degrees. And with the range of stuff that they use it for, I guarantee you, if it was a soft metal, they wouldn't be using it for that shit. Okay? Especially crankshafts, bolts, things like that. Ever. Now, will this cut? Absolutely. And the person goes, cutting a piece of paper ain't gonna do it. Piece of paper can cut you. Yeah, it's called a paper cut, which most of us have probably had, and they hurt. But this will cut. This will cut really, really good, in fact. From me running this over my stones, it will cut phenomenally well. Okay? I haven't used it that much, and like I said, this is my practice sword for polishing. You start learning how to do that with the stone, and man, it gets them sharp. Really, really sharp. This kind of falls under, too, with the 1045 people saying it's soft metal. The whole thing with L6. Because one person heat treats it with bayanite, everybody thinks that's the only way you can do L6. I've seen comments saying, oh, that's a low-grade L6. It's not the good stuff. Bullshit. L6 is L6. The only difference was it was heat-treated with bayanite. Bayanite is a heat-treating process. Not a lot of people do it. Why? One, it's a very complicated process to do. Two, it's a very expensive process to do. The only places that really do it are automotive industries for crankshafts, because those have to be super tough. They're under a lot of torque, especially for big rigs they do it for. But people who say it's a low-grade L6, that's bullshit. Let me tell you how steel works in the industry. Okay? Doesn't matter if this is 1045 like this, 1060, L6, S7, S5, T10. All steels have a code. Every single steel has a code, has a number to it. Okay? There's an international standards for all steel. So when steel mills make the metal, they have to keep track of what's in it. Now, there are tolerances that are allowed, plus or minus. It is very difficult to get it spot on every single time. Okay? If you are not in those standards for the code of what's in this, you can't sell it under that code, under that name like this. If this is out of the plus or minus that they allow tolerances, you cannot sell this as 1045. It's not allowed. And this is internationally. Everybody recognizes it. Even China, Indonesia, India, here. So not one place is better than the other. It has a one set standard across the board, period. And there's no allowances. Because when you allow allowances too much for metal, people die. That's just a fact. They either get hurt or they die. I've worked in this industry for a very long time. I've seen a lot of bad things happen. So, how do they know? Like me working at a foundry now for a while, we have a machine. It's called a spectrometer. And what we do is we take a piece of the metal that we're pouring straight from the furnace, and we pour it into a little button. And steel mills do the exact same thing. They take a button. Their machine might be a little different, but it does the same thing. You put it in the machine, it burns it on the top on purpose. Now, from them burning it, that sends a signal into the machine to a computer, and that computer reads out every composite that's inside this metal. And then they take that button and that printout and they put the two together. Then they tell the furnace operator if it's good or isn't good. If it's good and it's time to pour it, then they pour it. If it isn't good, then they have to add or take away. Like ours, we do, and on top of it, the customer, whoever's buying that steel, can request the readout and a button. So like at our work, we'll pour 2 to 3 buttons on each heat that we do. One we keep, one we send to the customer if they've requested that. That way, if they want it and we don't test that button, that way if they want it tested in a lab to make sure that our readings are correct, they can do that. That's what I'm saying. There's a standard. There's no tolerances allowed except for what the tolerances they have set. Like we do mild steel. Mild steel's 1018 down below. It's what they call mild steel. Okay, then you have low grade carbon-based steel, 1045, medium grade, high grade, which high grade is 1095 up. 2 steel does not go into that category. That's a category of its own. So we do mild, we do 4130, 4120, we do 8620, 8630. We do all kinds of stuff. Anything that is carbon based, that's what we do. So we have parts that we have to pour out of the same metal. So if we have 2 heats of that, our tolerance is plus or minus 2. So if it's 2 up or 2 below, it's okay according to the standards. We're allowed to say, yeah, that is what it is. So If it's 8630 that we're pouring, we're doing 2 heats of that. If it's plus or minus 2, according to the standards, we're okay. We can call it 8630. So, like I said, it don't matter where it comes from. Everybody has to be in those standards. Period. So there's no a lesser quality of something. That don't exist. So that's my take on 1045. People, when you put it out there, people want to glob onto that, and that's what they want to believe, and that's the term they want to use, and it's ridiculous. It's like the L6. Everybody thinks bayanite. You got to have bayanite. That's not true. I've got punch dies out there made out of L6 in my shop, in my garage. They don't have bayanite. And they'll punch a 1/2-inch steel hole in a piece of 1/2-inch steel. No problem. Pow. Because dies like that are made out of L6 because it's so durable. So, no. Don't need it. It was just something fancy somebody wanted to try and they were successful. That was it. But let's see how well this thing cuts, shall we?